Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at the U.S. Constitution,
Okay.
but we're going to be doing it through a unique perspective,
Right.
an AI's logical analysis.
Okay, cool.
So imagine an AI tasked with understanding this foundational document of American governance.
Hmm.
What would stand out to this AI? What logical connections would it make?
I think it would be fascinated by the document's age.
Yeah.
You know, it's a centuries-old blueprint for a nation,
Absolutely.
and it's successfully guided the U.S. for, well, centuries.
Right.
I think the AI would also be struck by the Constitution's focus on perfecting a union.
Right. So what does that imply about its initial state?
Exactly. It acknowledges that things weren't quite perfect to begin with, right? Like,
Yeah.
the Founding Fathers were basically saying, okay, we've got a good foundation here,
Uh-huh.
but there's always room for improvement.
It's not about achieving some static utopia.
Right.
It's establishing a system that allows for continuous adaptation and improvement.
That's a key insight that an AI would likely pick up on, yeah.
Yeah.
The Constitution isn't presented as a flawless masterpiece.
Okay.
It's a framework for ongoing progress, a recognition that the pursuit of a more perfect union is an ongoing process.
So it's a living document.
It is, and I think our AI would be quite impressed by the way the Constitution sets up this system,
Okay.
particularly the careful balance of power between the different branches of government.
We're talking about the legislative, executive, and judicial branches.
Exactly, the classic separation of powers.
Yeah.
And an AI, with its emphasis on efficiency and preventing any single point of failure, would immediately grasp the brilliance of this design.
Okay.
Power is distributed, each branch has its own distinct responsibilities, and the ability to check and balance the others.
So no one entity has absolute control.
Precisely.
It's like a system of interlocking gears,
Yes,
each one essential for the smooth operation of the whole machine.
a great analogy. And it speaks to the foresight of the Founding Fathers. They recognized that concentrating too much power in any one entity was a recipe for tyranny.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
How do you think an AI would react to the fact that the Constitution has been amended so many times?
Interesting question.
Would it see that as a sign of weakness or imperfection?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Remember, AI is all about adaptability, learning from experience.
Right.
It would likely view the amendments as evidence of the Constitution's capacity to evolve and respond to changing circumstances.
So not patches or fixes, but upgrades,
Exactly.
improving the system over time.
Yeah, and it would be fascinated by those specific amendments,
Okay.
particularly the ones that highlight evolving societal values and address injustices.
Like the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery, or
Exactly.
the 19th Amendment granting women the right to vote.
Right. These represent major shifts in how the nation viewed fundamental rights and freedoms.
It's like the AI is watching the Constitution learn and grow,
I like that.
adapting to new challenges and striving to become a more just and equitable system.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And it speaks to one of the key things that would stand out to an AI, the Constitution's remarkable longevity.
Absolutely.
The fact that this document, created centuries ago, still serves as the foundation for one of the most powerful and enduring nations on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
It's a testament to its underlying principles
Yes.
and its capacity for adaptation.
it would have to be impressed by that.
From an AI perspective,
Yeah.
anything that survived and thrived that long must have something special going for it.
Absolutely. Now, having established the Constitution's core principles and framework, I think our AI would then want to delve into the specifics.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty then.
Okay.
Let's start with Article 1, which deals with the legislative branch.
All right.
I'm curious to see how an AI would dissect the structure and function of Congress.
I think it would be particularly intrigued by the bicameral nature of Congress, the division of power between the House of Representatives and the Senate.
Right.
It would see this as a deliberate mechanism to ensure both responsiveness to the people
Okay.
and a degree of stability and long-term thinking.
But wouldn't an AI also be puzzled by some of the seemingly archaic aspects of Congress?
Probably.
Like the filibuster in the Senate, which
Right.
can bring legislative progress to a grinding halt?
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
An AI with its emphasis on efficiency and logic might indeed question the rationale behind procedures that seem to hinder rather than facilitate decision-making.
So it's not just about praising the Constitution's brilliance.
Right.
It's also about using the AI's perspective to identify areas where the system might be falling short of its own ideals.
Exactly. And that's where this exercise gets really interesting.
Right.
By applying an AI's logical lens to the Constitution, we can gain fresh insights into its strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And perhaps even start a conversation about how we can continue to refine and improve our system of governance in the 21st century.
All right, so our AI has analyzed Article 1
Okay.
and the intricacies of Congress.
Mhm.
Now let's shift gears and dive into Article 2,
Okay.
which deals with the executive branch, the presidency.
Right.
I think our AI would be fascinated by the immense power vested in a single individual,
Yeah.
the President of the United States.
It would immediately recognize the president's role as the head of state, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces,
Right.
and the person responsible for executing and enforcing the laws created by Congress.
It's a lot of responsibility for one person.
It is.
But I bet our AI would also notice the checks and balances
Oh, absolutely.
that are built in to limit the president's power.
The AI would see how Congress holds the purse strings, meaning the president can't just spend money without their approval.
Right.
And of course, there's the judicial branch, the courts,
Yeah.
which have the power to declare presidential actions unconstitutional.
So even the most powerful person in the country
Right.
has to operate within a framework of accountability.
Precisely. And I think the AI would appreciate the logic of that system.
Yeah.
It's about preventing the concentration of power and ensuring that no one individual can operate above the law.
But wouldn't the AI also be puzzled by some of the quirks of the presidential election process?
Like what?
Like the Electoral College, for instance.
Yes, the Electoral College.
Yeah.
With its winner-take-all system in most states.
Right.
It might seem counterintuitive to an AI that prioritizes a pure one person, one vote principle.
Right.
It might flag that as a potential area for improvement,
Okay.
suggesting a more direct and mathematically straightforward approach to electing the president.
But the AI might also recognize the historical rationale behind the Electoral College.
That's true.
It was designed in part to balance the interests of larger and smaller states,
Yeah.
preventing a few populous states from dominating the election.
It's a classic example of how the Constitution reflects a series of compromises, seeking to accommodate diverse interests and perspectives.
Right.
The AI might find it messy, but it would acknowledge the underlying goal of achieving a balance of representation.
All right, moving on from the president, let's see what our AI makes of Article 3,
Okay.
which establishes the judicial branch, the courts.
The courts, right?
I think the concept of judicial review would be particularly intriguing to an AI.
I think so, too.
The idea that the courts have the power to declare laws unconstitutional, even those passed by Congress and signed by the president,
Right.
is a pretty powerful check on the other branches of government.
And talk about job security.
Oh, yeah,
Federal judges serve for life.
as long as they maintain good behavior.
Right. I bet our AI would be impressed by that level of stability
Yeah.
and independence.
Absolutely.
The AI would understand that lifetime tenure is meant to insulate judges from political pressure,
Okay.
allowing them to make rulings based on their interpretation of the law,
Right.
not on fear of losing their jobs or facing retribution.
So it's all about protecting the integrity of the judicial process.
Yes,
And ensuring that the rule of law prevails.
exactly. But here's where things get a bit tricky.
Okay.
The AI might be puzzled by the fact that the Constitution doesn't explicitly mention judicial review.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You mean it's not actually written in there?
Nope.
But the Supreme Court has been doing it forever.
That's true, but it's a power that the court essentially established for itself.
Okay.
In the landmark case of Marbury v. Madison back in 1803,
Hmm.
the AI might find this a bit perplexing.
Yeah.
A crucial element of the system is not directly spelled out in the founding document.
This is like a hidden feature,
Yeah.
something that emerged through interpretation and precedent
Right.
rather than through explicit design.
Exactly. And this highlights a key aspect of the Constitution that the AI would have to grapple with.
Okay.
It's not a rigid set of instructions, but rather a framework for governance that's open to interpretation and evolution over time.
Which means that human judgment and human biases inevitably come into play.
Absolutely. And that's where the AI's purely logical approach might start to break down.
Right.
Because while it can analyze the text of the Constitution
Yeah.
and understand its structural elements,
Yep.
it can't fully grasp the nuances of human interpretation, the role of historical context,
Right.
and the influence of social and political movements.
Like the AI can see the blueprint of the building,
Yeah.
but it can't account for the way people actually live and work within those walls.
That's a great way to put it.
Thank
And it speaks to the limitations of any purely logical analysis of a system that's designed to govern a species as complex and unpredictable as humans.
So our AI has now explored the three branches of government.
Right.
But I'm wondering,
Yeah,
what would it make of the relationship between the states and the federal government?
that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it leads us to Article 4 of the Constitution,
Okay.
which deals with the principles of federalism. I think the AI would be quite intrigued by the way the Constitution divides power
Yeah.
between the national government and the states,
Right.
recognizing that certain issues are best handled at the local level,
Okay.
while others require a unified national approach.
It's like a giant puzzle.
It is.
Figuring out which powers belong where
Yeah,
and how to resolve conflicts when they arise.
exactly. And the AI would likely focus on the Supremacy Clause,
Okay.
which establishes that federal law is the supreme law of the land,
Right.
meaning it takes precedence over conflicting state laws.
Mhm.
Our AI friend, with its love of clear hierarchies, would appreciate that principle.
Right. No ambiguity there.
No.
But I can also see the AI raising an eyebrow at some of the historical conflicts over states' rights.
Yeah.
Like, the whole Civil War thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The AI would recognize that while the Constitution provides a framework for resolving disputes,
Mm-hmm.
the actual application of those principles has been far from smooth sailing. The human element, with all its passions and conflicting interests,
Yeah.
inevitably introduces a degree of complexity and unpredictability.
So even with a seemingly logical system in place,
Yeah,
things can still get messy in practice.
they can.
I guess that's the challenge of governing a nation as diverse and dynamic as the United States.
Indeed, and it's a reminder that the Constitution is a living document,
Yeah.
constantly being interpreted and reinterpreted in light of new challenges and societal shifts.
Okay, so we've covered the three branches of government
Mm-hmm.
and the balance of power between the states and the feds.
Right.
What else is on our AI's constitutional checklist?
Well, I think it would be remiss if we didn't address Article V,
Okay.
which outlines the process for amending the Constitution.
Right.
After all, we've already talked about how those amendments have played a crucial role
Yeah.
in the Constitution's evolution and adaptability.
We've seen how the Constitution has been amended to abolish slavery,
Right.
grant women the right to vote,
Mm-hmm.
and expand civil rights. Yeah. But now we're getting into the nuts and bolts of how those changes actually happen.
Exactly. And from an AI's perspective, this process might seem surprisingly complex.
Okay.
It requires a supermajority vote in both houses of Congress
Mm-hmm.
and ratification by 3/4 of the states.
Right.
It's not a quick and easy process.
So I guess the Founding Fathers wanted to make sure any changes to the Constitution had broad support
Yeah,
and weren't just fleeting whims of the moment.
that's a very astute observation.
Thanks.
The AI would likely see this deliberate process as a safeguard against impulsive or radical alterations to
Yeah.
the fundamental framework of government.
So it's like a built-in stability mechanism.
Yeah.
Making sure the Constitution evolves thoughtfully
Mm-hmm.
rather than erratically.
Right. Right.
But doesn't that also make it difficult to adapt to rapidly changing circumstances?
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
The AI might recognize the tension between the need for stability
Mm.
and the need for responsiveness. It might wonder if there's a way to strike a better balance,
Okay.
perhaps by exploring alternative amendment processes
Yeah.
used in other democratic systems around the world.
So it's not just about understanding how the system works,
Right.
but also about critically evaluating its effectiveness
Mm-hmm.
and considering potential improvements.
Precisely. And that's what makes this exercise so valuable.
Yeah.
By applying an AI's logical lens to the Constitution,
Okay.
we can gain a fresh perspective on its strengths and weaknesses,
Mhm.
and perhaps even spark a conversation about how we can continue to refine and improve our system of governance in the 21st century.
Well, I'm eager to hear our AI's final verdict.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the separation of powers to the amendment process.
Yeah.
What are the key takeaways?
Right.
What would an AI conclude about this grand experiment in self-governance?
I think that's a perfect segue into our final part,
Okay.
where we'll explore the AI's overall assessment of the Constitution and its enduring legacy in a world that's rapidly changing.
Right.
So tune.
Okay, we've journeyed through the U.S. Constitution,
We have.
article by article, amendment by amendment,
Mm.
all through the lens of an AI.
Yeah.
Now for the big finale.
All right.
What's the verdict?
Mm.
Does the Constitution pass the AI's logic test?
I think our AI would be impressed.
Okay.
The system analysis, as it were,
Mhm.
is largely positive.
Okay.
It would recognize the Constitution's robust framework,
Yeah.
its emphasis on checks and balances,
Right.
and its remarkable adaptability over time.
So no need for a complete system reboot.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
No Constitution 2.0 recommended. But remember, AI is all about identifying areas for optimization.
Right.
It would likely point out certain elements that could benefit from refinement,
Okay.
perhaps even suggesting alternative approaches
Mm-hmm.
based on its analysis of other governance models.
Now that's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's like having an ultra-logical consultant, giving feedback on the operating system of the United States.
Exactly.
What kind of tweaks might it propose?
Well, for one, it might question the efficiency of the Electoral College system.
Okay.
Given its focus on logical consistency, it might recommend a move towards a direct popular vote.
For presidential elections.
Yeah,
That's certainly a hot-button issue.
it is.
I can already imagine the AI getting a bit flustered
Yeah,
by all the human emotions surrounding that debate.
indeed. And this highlights a crucial point.
Okay.
While AI can offer valuable insights and perspectives,
Yeah.
it can't replace human judgment
Right.
and the messy process of democratic decision-making.
So we can't just hand the reins over to an algorithm
Right.
and expect it to solve all our political challenges.
Exactly. But we can use AI as a tool to help us think more critically,
Okay.
to question assumptions,
Yeah.
and to explore alternative solutions.
So it's about collaboration,
It is
not replacement.
right.
Using AI to enhance our understanding, not dictate our decisions.
Precisely. And in that spirit,
Okay.
I think our AI companion would leave us with a final thought-provoking question.
All right, hit me with it.
If an AI were tasked with designing a system of government from scratch,
Okay.
how would it differ from the one created by humans centuries ago?
Whoa,
Right.
that is a mind bender.
It is.
I mean, would it prioritize efficiency above all else?
Yeah.
Would it eliminate all forms of emotional bias?
Those are excellent questions.
Yeah.
And I think they underscore the fundamental difference
Okay.
between AI and human intelligence.
Mm.
AI excels at logic, pattern recognition, and optimization.
Okay.
Humans, on the other hand,
Right.
bring to the table our capacity for empathy, creativity,
Yeah.
and our understanding of the complexities of human nature.
So it's almost like a philosophical debate.
It is.
Can a perfect system be designed by pure logic alone? Or does it require the messy
Yeah.
and predictable input of
Right.
human experience?
And that, my friend, is a question for each of us to ponder.
I like that.
As we navigate an increasingly AI-driven world,
Mhm.
it's essential that we grapple with these fundamental questions
Yeah.
about the nature of governance, the role of technology,
Right.
and ultimately what it means to be human in a world shaped by artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that's about as profound as it gets.
It is, right.
I think our AI friend has given us plenty to think about.
I agree.
And who knows? Maybe it's out there right now running simulations,
Yeah.
crunching data, and coming up with its own version of a more perfect union.
Perhaps.
Well, I think it's time to power down our AI for now
All right.
and let our human brains process all these fascinating insights.
Let them simmer.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive
It's been a pleasure.
into the U.S. Constitution. And as always, keep those synapses firing.